If I was to ask you as a kid, did you ever question who was entertaining you and who was pulling the strings? What would you say? Did you question the actors, the network owners, the rappers? Did you question the child entertainers, the TV hosts, and the news presenters? Why would you? You were just a kid, right? I never questioned a thing. I was fully absorbed and fully entertained, blinded by the magic of Disney, the Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon, shows like Kenan and Kel, Johnny Bravo, and my favorite, Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was the shiznit. For real, I still never questioned anything really. Yo MTV Raps had my mind blown, or did it? Nah, I can't lie. I was on entertainment overload. Welcome to the 90s. Through my teens and 20s, I was introduced to the entertainment industry. Then I started to see, then I started to question. Like a magic spell. And the tricks a magician will use apply to this world. Smoke and mirrors, and sleight of hand. Watching one thing as another thing is happening elsewhere. I had no idea this is who I was entertained by, who I and many of us were entertained by, and yet, to this day, we are still entertained by them, and willingly let our children engage and follow these entertainers. Who's to blame? And how do we stop it? In today's world, a child has access to even more ways to be entertained. The invention of smart devices and social media allows a child from an early age to not just watch, but also follow and engage with a TV personality, TV networks and influencers, and celebrities of all kinds. But so do the predators, with the same devices and accesses as our children do. So do those who want to harm our children. Now I'm grown, I see there is a direct correlation between child exploitation and the entertainment world. Since my childhood to the present day, I, as many others have too, have seen our once hailed and beloved moguls, celebrities, TV idiots, artists, and musicians hit the headlines with some of the most heinous and horrific crimes against humanity. It could turn a nun into a killer. I, like others, have to hold back a certain primal urge to take a few pals, some razors, and a blowtorch to these people, and send them to meet Lucifer. But how would that help my children? I digress.
Social networks really are the start of a conveyor belt of harm. Abusers using these well-known household names to identify each other, to form networks with each other, to then move across to encrypted messaging sites, to the dark web, to offender fora. And the reason why it's so important that we see the tech companies get their house in order is because this is an opportunity to stop child abuse at the earliest possible point, rather than letting those abusers make contact with each other, move across then to places where the abuse is harder to detect, it's harder to find, and where children will come to harm as a result.
So many people on TV are watched growing up, have now been convicted of those crimes, and the extent of those crimes date back to my childhood. And before.
He's been a household name in Britain for decades, but today Rolf Harris was charged with 13 sexual offences involving children.
Police now believe BBC personality Jimmy Savile, who died last year, may have abused around 300 children over the course of 6 decades.
Have we really allowed it to go on for so long?
Behind bars and indicted on federal sex trafficking and racketeering allegations. But those aren't the only accusations Diddy's facing. In fact, there are dozens of allegations dating as far back as the 90s.
How do these organized rings and elite predators operate with outright impunity, almost seemingly protected for a long time? Their crimes, although known conveniently, stay hidden from the public. This allegedly runs as deep as Parliament and royalty. It makes me sick to my stomach to see these things come to light, and the destruction that they have caused. And it sickens me further to know that people still willingly entertain their children while knowing it's so prevalent within the industries, and that some parents encourage their children to pursue the casting couch and a life in said industries.
I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
What kills me the most is that in 2024/25, parts of the world have now normalized child and sexual exploitation and have protected the rights of the abuser. When did we come to this point? When did we decide it was okay? We have allowed the feelings and the rights of the abuser to be protected over the abused. There are now states where the police no longer arrest child predators, and any form of oppression is dealt with the full force of the law. Some would argue that there is a two-tier policing system. I believe there are many tiers.
Utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law.
We live in a multifaceted world with a highly diverse mix of fundamentally complex beings, all living in a woke and digital age where the thoughts and feelings of every individual count. As much as I don't like it, that also includes the types of people covered in today's video. I have my own thoughts and opinions on what we should do to these people, or where we should send them. But that's just my opinion. Comment below. Do you think there is a place for people like this in society? And if so, what benefits do they bring? And can they be rehabilitated? And lastly, will society ever accept them?
Latest from the investigation into American rapper Sean Diddy Combs. Now Prince Harry has been named in a $30 million lawsuit against the hip-hop mogul, who is facing charges of sex trafficking and sexual abuse. The lawsuit suggests that the Duke of Sussex was one of the guests at Combs' infamous parties, allegedly attended by sex workers and underage girls. However, there is no suggestion of any wrongdoing by the prince.
Do you now question who is entertaining you and who is pulling the strings? Do you question the actors, the singers, the rappers? Do you believe the news presenters? Do you trust the elites and celebrities? And can we ever solve this prevalent problem that permeates all cultures and classes? Can we save the children and stop the cycles? Stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching and listening.
Ask them the question, why do you do it?
Yeah. And I'd say to them straight away, do you have a sexual interest in children? I go, yeah. And one guy said to me, he said something really odd. He said, I was in a house once, and he said, and there's three men in the house, and we wanted a boy. He said, we wanted a boy. And he said, have you ever seen heroin addicts when they're clucking? He said, they're marching up and down, they can't settle, they're, you know. Well, yeah, of course. He said, paedophiles are the same.